The NASCAR world was rocked this week when the racing organization filed a countersuit against Michael Jordan's 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports. In an unprecedented move, NASCAR officially labeled these teams as an illegal cartel and accused them of orchestrating a conspiracy to pressure the organization into accepting their demands. This explosive legal battle just escalated to new heights. NASCAR's countersuit, filed on March 5th, directly names not just the two racing teams, but also Curtis Polk, Jordan's longtime business partner and 2311 co-owner. The timing couldn't be more dramatic, as both teams are currently competing in the Cup Series under a court order while the lawsuit proceeds. Let's break down exactly what's happening in this high-stakes legal showdown that could reshape the entire landscape of NASCAR racing. This clash began over NASCAR's charter system, essentially the sport's version of franchises. These charters guarantee team-specific financial benefits and guaranteed starting positions in every NASCAR Cup Series race. After more than 2 years of contentious negotiations on new charter agreements, tensions boiled over last September. NASCAR presented what it called its final offer to the 15 teams just 48 hours before the playoffs were set to begin. It was essentially a take-it-or-leave-it scenario, with an ultimatum that the charter system would be disbanded if teams didn't sign. While 13 teams reluctantly signed the new agreement, 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports refused. These two organizations stood their ground and, in October 2024, filed a bombshell antitrust lawsuit against NASCAR and CEO Jim France, accusing them of being monopolistic bullies who use anti-competitive and exclusionary practices to enrich themselves at the expense of racing teams. The teams claim NASCAR has been restraining fair competition and violating the Sherman Antitrust Act through its charter system. This bold move set up the legal battle that's now intensifying with NASCAR's stunning counterattack. NASCAR's 30-page countersuit pulls no punches. It specifically targets Curtis Polk, portraying him as the mastermind behind what NASCAR calls an illegal conspiracy. According to the filing, Polk willfully violated antitrust laws by orchestrating collective action against NASCAR. The countersuit claims Polk and the teams agreed to a scheme to pressure NASCAR to accept their collusive terms, including by engaging in media campaigns, interfering with NASCAR's broadcast agreement negotiations, threatening boycotts of NASCAR events, and engaging in a group boycott of a NASCAR team owner council meeting. NASCAR attorney Christopher Yates didn't hold back in his statements to the Associated Press, directly attacking Polk's understanding of the sport. Curtis Polk basically orchestrated and threatened a boycott of one of the qualifying races for a major event, and others did not go along with him. He got other teams to boycott a meeting that was required by the charter. Yates even suggested Polk is trying to impose NBA-style governance on NASCAR, stating, "I don't think Mr. Polk really understands the sport. I think he came into it and his view is it should be much more like the NBA or other league sports. But it's not. No motorsport is like that. He's done a lot of things that might work in the NBA or might be okay in the NBA, but just are not appropriate in NASCAR." The racing organization's legal filing describes the team's actions as attempting to misuse the legal system as a last resort to secure new terms, and calls it truly ironic that in trying to blow up the charter system, 2311 and FRM have sought to weaponize the antitrust laws to achieve their goals. One of the most shocking accusations in NASCAR's countersuit involves the 2024 Daytona 500 qualifying races. NASCAR claims Polk threatened to organize a boycott of the qualifying duels, the pair of 150-mile races that set the field for the Daytona 500, one of NASCAR's premier events. This allegation is particularly serious, given the importance of these qualifying races to the sport and their media coverage. NASCAR argues that such actions threaten the collective growth of the sport and harm other race teams. While the alleged boycott never actually materialized, NASCAR is using these claims to paint Polk as someone willing to damage the sport to achieve his goals. The lawsuit portrays him as representing all teams in negotiations, coordinating their conduct, and threatening teams that considered leaving the conspiracy and interfering and negatively affecting NASCAR's attempts to renew its media rights agreements. NASCAR isn't just seeking a symbolic victory. They're asking for serious penalties against the teams. The countersuit seeks triple damages and, most significantly, asks for the elimination of guaranteed starting positions for 2311 and front row Motorsports and Cup Series races if they continue challenging the charter agreements. Even more dramatic, NASCAR wants the 4 combined charters held by 2311 and front row before the lawsuit to be returned to the organization. They're also asking to dissolve the 2 additional charters each team purchased for their 2025 expansion. NASCAR's attorney made the stakes crystal clear. If they prevail, the charter system likely goes away. This statement underscores how this legal battle could fundamentally transform the sport. Yates has been adamant that NASCAR has no intention of renegotiating the charter terms, stating, "This is not going to be a renegotiation. NASCAR has no intent of renegotiating the terms of the charter. Front Row and 2311 are threatening the charter system and its continuation, and NASCAR is fine without the charter system." Perhaps most surprisingly, NASCAR is claiming they never actually wanted the charter system in the first place. According to Yates, the charter system was created at the request of the teams. That was before 2311 and Curtis Polk's time. I don't think they understand that history. But if they succeed with their lawsuit and the charter system goes away, that's okay. Despite the legal fireworks, both 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports are still actively competing in NASCAR's Cup Series. This is thanks to a December 20th, 24 federal court ruling that allowed both teams to continue as chartered organizations for the 2025 season, while the legal dispute works its way through the courts. Not only are they competing, but they've actually expanded their operations. Both teams acquired 3rd charters during the offseason and are fielding 3 full-time teams each. 2311 Racing, co-owned by Denny Hamlin along with Jordan and Polk, is running Toyotas driven by Riley Herbst, Tyler Reddick, and Bubba Wallace. Front Row Motorsports, under owner Bob Jenkins, is fielding Fords piloted by Todd Gilliland, Noah Gragson, and Zane Smith. And they're not just participating, they're contending. After just 3 races this season, 2311's Tyler Reddick sits 3rd in the driver's standings, with teammate Bubba Wallace in 6th. This success on the track makes the legal battle all the more fascinating. While lawyers battle in courtrooms, these teams are showing they belong among NASCAR's elite competitors. The teams and their legal representation aren't taking NASCAR's accusations lying down. Attorney Jeffrey Kessler, representing both 2311 and Front Row, fired back with a strongly worded statement calling NASCAR's countersuit a meritless distraction and a desperate attempt to shift attention away from its own unlawful monopolistic actions. Kessler flipped the script on NASCAR's claims, stating NASCAR agreed to the joint negotiations that they now attack. When those joint negotiations failed, they used individual negotiations to impose their charter terms, which most of the teams decided they had no choice but to accept. He framed the team's lawsuit as a necessary step toward improving the sport. My client's lawsuit has always been about transforming NASCAR into a more competitive and fair sport for the benefit of drivers, fans, sponsors, and teams because of their love of the sport. Every major sport goes through a transition to competition when antitrust claims are asserted, and that moment has come for NASCAR. Michael Jordan has previously stated he's fighting this battle not just for his team, but for all NASCAR teams, particularly smaller ones. Jordan wants even the smallest ones to receive equal footing in terms of benefits as a participant in the top motorsports league in the United States. At the heart of this legal battle is NASCAR's charter system and how it structures the financial relationship between the racing organization and its teams. The charters were first implemented ahead of the 2016 season after being requested by the teams. They've been extended twice since then, with the latest extension set for 7 years to match the current media rights deal. These agreements guarantee 36 of the 40 spots in each week's field to the charter-holding teams, along with other financial incentives. According to NASCAR's attorney, the new charters guarantee teams nearly 50% of revenue, a significant increase from the previous system. Under the 2016 charter agreement, media rights were split, with 65% going to racetracks, 25% to teams, and 10% to NASCAR. Pool money increased teams' payout to about 38% of NASCAR Cup Series media revenue, rising to approximately 40% in 2024. However, the teams wanted permanent charters, which NASCAR refused to grant. Under the current system, NASCAR maintains the right to claw back charters from underperforming teams or eliminate the system completely. This was a major sticking point in negotiations. The stakes are enormous for team valuations. When charters were introduced in 2016, they could be acquired for as little as $2 million. That figure rose dramatically, with one charter selling for $40 million in 2023. Last year, 23XI and Front Row each paid an estimated $20 to $25 million for the single charter they purchased from Stewart-Haas Racing.